Okay, hey everyone, to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have another cool kind of strap focused review for you. Of course, bracelets though, from Uncle Straps, formerly known as Uncle Seiko. And a little bit about them. They were founded, really based on the Seiko mod community and very popularized, and rightfully so, for providing really great products. Now, I'm really gonna, although you guys have already seen me kind of showcase the Jubilee option, I also do have the President option here, also on their newer upgraded milled clasp. And I guess to start, I'll just talk about a little bit of the history around, these Alpinists, the baby Alpinists shown here, but this actually is meant to fit also the SARB 017 Alpinist as well as the other Prospex Alpinist models. Not to include the Laurel Alpinist though, because those have a 19mm lug width, but pretty much the ones with faces similar to these will fit. And they also even fit the baby Alpinist with just a little bit of extra effort in terms of aligning the spring bars. Now, for the longest time, I've always, been a bit of a, I guess, an Alpinist buff, but a lot of the times, a lot of the bracelet options that they had were just too darn chunky in terms of what the aftermarket was actually offering. So finally, after all these years, it's great to see Uncle Seiko really step up and offer some really svelte, well-tapered, really nicely proportioned options for these awesome watches. So that's what took it so long. It was really just waiting for these to get released. Typically, if you guys look at my Alpinist watches, they're all on an OEM or a variation of an OEM bracelet until now. So with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get these pieces in hand, and take a closer look. All right, guys. So as you can see, these are very similar, but also very nice options. Also, you can even get the President bracelet you see on the right hand side here. You can actually get that with a polished center link, which I think would actually go really well with this, but of course, I'm going to prefer the brushed, and I think it's a nice contrast compared to the Jubilee, which is of course going to look outstanding with that polished group of center links there. You can see, of course, these are two different models, one with the more standardized kind of fume gradient texture dial versus this one being actually quite a bit, having a little bit more depth in terms of having a sunray pattern over textured dial with that more kind of coffee chocolatey type of root beer dial there, with the gilt hands playing off of the colorways there versus the more ivory tones. Either way, both of these watches are really meant, and even the standard Alpinist watches are really meant to evoke a bit of a classic kind of vintage aesthetic, and I think that's why they pair really well with these straps. Also, because of the sizes, these are 38mm cases, you really want something that is going to give you a nice taper versus something that, unfortunately, a lot of the options have been a bit bulky from the link perspective, and then, having male end links which will, make the watch appear even bigger and wear a little bit bigger. As well as, when you don't have a nice taper, that like you can see here, tapering down to about 16mm, that's a really classic taper. 20 to 16 looks great. And it's extremely comfortable, and two, it just goes with the shape and the size of this watch. Look at those dimensions there. It just has a nice, natural, very gradual taper. Versus sometimes, unfortunately, you're going to see it feel more straight link with a lack of a deep taper. And, in this occasion, this really suits it better, these types. And, these, of course, the President and the Jubilee were made very popular by Rolex watches, but it's not like, they're the only watches to ever have these types of linkage. So no worries about these, feeling like an homage just based off of the bracelet that they're on. But I did want to show you guys that. So Again, these are very similar, even similar in pricing. 89 bucks with the solid milled clasp. You can see this is an upgrade and kind of an extra choice you can do. Doesn't come with it, and or you can basically, I think, save about 10 bucks and get it with the pressed, more. Basically, I guess, truer to the era, having a press clasp, and then you'll also have more micro adjust. But because these are very short links, basically these are about as long as a half link, so you'll be able to still dial things in even with just having that extra one spot there. You can see both of them have that. Really just 1 point of micro adjust back or forth here, but it works really well. Nicely milled, nicely signed, nicely finished, and it just feels very OEM like. And you guys know I'm a big, kind of OEM plus when it comes to any types of mods, even when it comes to vehicle mods. I dig an OEM plus look, and I think with this definitely does have an OEM plus vibe to it, and I like to see that, especially because people are wearing these like field watches, exploring watches. It's nice to have that extra bit of taper on there. Just so you can actually get a nice range of motion on your wrist, feel like it's breathing really well. As you can see, great articulation. And again, if this was a bit thicker at the bottom, then it could lead it to feeling a bit heavier than it needs to. But you can see the light rolls beautifully off of these links. It just has that great sheen, that satin quality to it, which just, screams sports watch, which I really like. And again, you're getting those female end links, so it's not extending the lug to lug at all. So visually still very nice. And then, of course, on the other side, you do have something that's going to be a bit more dressy in the Jubilee. But, I think that's one of the great things about the Alpinist line is that they're so versatile. They have a bit of extra class to them. There's a little bit of a dressy aspect. And some of you might be thinking, oh man, a dressy aspect to a field watch, hey, think about the Explorer. I mean, it's become more than a field watch. It's a bit more iconic than that. But I mean, within that vein of an adventurer's watch, a field watch, it's nice to have, more versatility to be able to say, hey, look, I can take this and take it into the field, and it's still going to have a screw down crown, water resistant up to 200 meters. You're going to have still that great sapphire crystal with an anti-reflective coating, mechanical movement, keeping time beautifully without needing to charge or needing to have a, battery every once in a while. So it's still very, very capable, but then again, very versatile and very wearable, right? Which is, I mean, you think about all of the praise that brands like Rolex do get for how great their bracelets are, right? So there's a reason why these types of bracelets are so successful and so desirable. They're just well built, and you don't need to really improve too much when you figure out a really good recipe for something. So I really do like these two options, and I think if you are thinking about getting this one with the polished center links, the President, you might as well just get the Jubilee. And again, these will work on the standard, with the extra crown there, the standard Alpinist as well. But if you have a baby Alpinist and you're looking for something that does have that beautiful taper that just flows with the case, just a little bit more petite, because you don't have that extra crown, you don't have that extra internal compass bezel, I think this is really a wonderful option for you from that perspective, because it just flows. Look at just the lines. It just flows like it should have been. And I mean, I've even had this on the OEM bracelet, and it just makes it a bit wider. Unfortunately, it just feels a little less refined. Which, hey, it worked, and I wore it many times and I was happy with it, but I'm definitely happier with this a lot more, both from an aesthetic standpoint as well as from a functional standpoint and wearability standpoint. Same goes for this model here. Actually, when I picked up this one, this comes naturally on a fabric strap, and I pretty much got this bracelet to go with this watch. You know, I think it would also look great on leather, just because of the brown tone, which it's funny enough on camera sometimes can even pick up a bit of a green tone, but it is definitely more of a kind of root beer chocolatey color there. Let me get some of the dust off the dial. And, you know, I do feel like, of course, the gilt does make it, you know, more easy to dress up from that perspective versus here. You know, everything is very matted. Even the hands have a brushed finish to them. And then, of course, the ivory indexing there adds that little touch of warmth. You know, and adds to the vintage aesthetic, especially with that gradient dial where it's brighter towards the center and then it slowly kind of gets darker. So really nice. These are all stainless steel. You're getting a lot of extra removable links here, kind of on each side. You know, you do get 2 sets of spring bars for fitment, so you get 1 set of thicker spring bars. That will be great, just to put it on your standard Alpinist, you know, with the extra 4 o'clock crown and internal rotating bezel. Or you'll also get the slimmer, the 1.5 millimeter thick spring bar, so you can fit them to models like the baby Alpinist, which is great. And maybe even other models that haven't been fully tested yet. I did test this on the Murph. Unfortunately, it was not a good fit, although it did fit side to side really well. Even the spring bar lined up really well in terms of keeping everything butted up against the case. Unfortunately, the flow of the line here, it was much taller, and with the reworked case on the Hamilton Khaki Field Murph 38, basically this arc here was just too high by comparison, and it just really overshot. It was like a 2 millimeter to 2 millimeters above the flow of the line of the lugs. Where here, as you can see, it's pretty much on par. The OEM end link, it sits a bit below these kind of inner chamfers there on the inside of the lug, where these are going to follow a little bit more the actual, especially on the President model, it's going to more so follow that line. You can see there's even, you know, of course there's going to be a little bit of give in between model to model and everything like that. So you can see even on my example, it does come up a little high, and then you can see a bit, I wouldn't say it's a gap because it's not actually gapped out. It's just because there's a chamfer there, and it does come a bit above the chamfer. But I think it still looks great, still wears wonderfully, and I'm going to keep this watch on this bracelet because it just looks that darn good. So again, you know, this will fit the JDM Alpinist SARB 017, and you know, anything that shares a similar body with that. So even the blue Alpinist, you know, the SPB was a 089, then the Seiko SPB 11X line, which I've had quite a few different variations within that. And then again, these baby Alpinists, if you use the secondary spring bars. So I did want to share these with you guys just because these, honestly, I know it feels like they've been a long time coming, and I'm so glad that they did, because there was so many times when I would be looking at some other offerings and they just always seemed a little bit too thick and a little bit just overwhelming compared to the really nice proportions of the Alpinist case. And then even more so, I think it's exemplified with the baby Alpinist, because then you're getting an even more kind of refined, versatile case. So whatever bracelet you put on here, it's really going to stand out. So again, thanks for tuning in. If you guys have any questions, definitely leave them down in the comment section. Which one do you prefer? You could say whether you like the dial variation or the bracelet pairing. Definitely let me know down in the comments below. So again, if you like the video, please do it like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like Get It Focused this. Thanks, guys.